Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? All right. Rabbit hole that I just climbed out from. um, ask yourself this question: why do we really need an iron dome? Okay. The U.S. Space Development Agency, or SDA, is rapidly aligning its proliferated warfighter space architecture with the Trump administration's Iron Dome for America initiative. And it is aimed at defending against hypersonic and ballistic missile threats. A new industry call seeks input on integrating SDA's satellite network into the system with a 60-day study contract set for award. The agency prioritizes interoperability, digital modeling, and advanced tracking sensors, including integrating Missile Defense Agency satellites. Now, Trump's recent signing of an executive order to develop the Iron Dome for America marks a significant shift in U.S. defense strategy, and it aims to protect the country from a broad spectrum of missile threats, including ballistic, hypersonic, and advanced cruise missiles, as well as other next-generation aerial attacks. My question is, what does he know that we do not? Okay. Now let's have a deeper look into the implications of this initiative. Okay, but first I'm going to read what was on the White House website. Okay, it says, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including my authority as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States, it is hereby ordered. Section 1. Purpose. The threat of attack by ballistic, hypersonic, and cruise missiles and other advanced aerial attacks remains the most catastrophic threat facing the United States. President Ronald Reagan endeavored to build an effective defense against nuclear attacks, and while this program resulted in many technological advances, it was canceled before its goal could be realized. And since the United States withdrew from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty in 2002 and initiated development of limited homeland missile defense, official United States homeland missile defense policy has remained only to stay ahead of rogue nation threats and accidental or unauthorized missile launches over the past 40 years, rather than lessening the threat from next-generation strategic weapons, has become more intense and complex with the development by peer and near-peer adversaries of next-generation delivery systems and their own homeland integrated air and missile defense capabilities. Section 2. Policy. To further the goal of peace through strength, it is the policy of the United States that the United States will provide for the common defense of its citizens and the nation by deploying and maintaining a next-generation missile defense shield. The United States will deter and defend its citizens with critical infrastructure against any foreign aerial attack on the homeland, and the United States will guarantee its secure second strike capability. Section 3. Implementation. Within 60 days of the date of this order, which was January 27, 2025, the Secretary of Defense shall submit to the President a reference architecture, capability-based requirements, and the implementation plan for the next generation missile defense shield. The architecture shall include, at a minimum, plans for defense of the United States against ballistic, hypersonic, advanced cruise missiles, and other next-generation aerial attacks from peer, near-peer, and rogue adversaries. Acceleration of the deployment of hypersonic, ballistic tracking space sensor layer. Development and deployment of proliferated space-based interceptors capable of boost phase intercept. Deployment of underlayer and terminal phase intercept capabilities postured to defeat and counter-value attack. Development and deployment of a custody layer of the proliferated warfighter space architecture, development and deployment of capabilities to defeat missile attacks prior to launch and in the boost phase, development and deployment of a secure supply chain for all components with next generation security and resilience features, and deployment and development of non-kinetic capabilities to augment the kinetic defeat of ballistic, hypersonic, advanced cruise missiles, and other next-generation aerial attacks. Review relevant authorities and organizations of the Department of Defense to develop and deploy capabilities at the necessary speed to implement this directive. Jointly with the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, submit to the President a plan to fund this directive, allowing sufficient time for consideration by the President before finalization of the fiscal year 2026 budget, and in cooperation with the United States Strategic Command and United States Northern Command, submit to the President an updated assessment of the strategic missile threat to the homeland and a prioritized set of locations to progressively defend against a counter-value attack by nuclear adversaries. Section 4. Allied and Threat Theater Missile Defense Review. The United States continues to cooperate on missile defense with its allies and partners to aid in the defense of allied populations and troops and of forward deployed United States troops. Following the submission to the President of the Next Generation Missile Defense Reference Architecture under Section 3 of this order, the Secretary of Defense shall direct a review of theater missiles, defense posture, and initiatives to identify ways in which the United States and its allies and partners can increase bilateral and multilateral cooperation on missile defense technology development capabilities and operations, improve theater missiles defenses, forward deployed United States troops and allied terrorist troops populations, and increase and accelerate the provisions of United States missile defense capabilities to allies and partners. Section 5. General provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency, or the head of, or the functions of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This order is not intended and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, or its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. So, now, when I was given this rabbit hole to go down, it said, your clue, it has everything to do with eagles and arrows. Okay. So, as for the eagles and the arrows, this is what I found. An integrated air defense system that is included with the Iron Dome. The Arrow 2 interceptor is part of the Arrow weapons system, which is the world's first operational national standalone ATBM, anti-tactical ballistic system defense system, based on the uniquely effective Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 interceptors. The Arrow module air defense system detects, tracks, intercepts, and destroys incoming missiles, or TBMs, carrying a range of incoming warheads and over a large footprint, therefore protecting strategic assets, armed forces, and population centers. Arrow 4 is the next generation atmospheric interceptor missile. That was tongue-tying. Currently, Arrow weapons system compromises Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 interceptors, and Arrow 4 will replace the Arrow 2 within the next several years. The development of Arrow 4 will result in a technological and operational leap forward, preparing us for the future battlefield and involving threats in the Middle East and beyond. Now, Sky Hunter, which is what I would refer to, like, you know, like as the eagle, Sky Hunter, okay, is essentially the same thing as the Tamir missile. Tamir missiles are short-range interceptors designed to destroy rockets, artillery shells, and drones. It is the main component of the Iron Dome system. Tamir missile has a diameter of 160 millimeters, the length of 3 meters, and a weight of 90 kilograms. It has a high explosive blast fragmentation warhead that weighs 11 kilograms. So the U.S. missile defense tactics intensify security dilemma. Okay, that's what this is for. The U.S. withdrawal from the anti-ballistic missile treaty under George W. Bush in 2002 had already set the stage for a new era in strategic defense. Now, this Iron Dome initiative further undermines any potential for returning to mutual missile defense restrictions. This move intensifies the security dilemma with Russia, which has developed hypersonic weapons, partly in response to U.S. missile defense advancements, potentially leading to an arms race with no clear end in sight. Now, this ignites a second space race where a new era has begun. So this creation of the Space Force in 2019 was the precursor to this new phase of space militarization. The executive order escalates this by planning for space-based monitoring and interception systems, including non-kinetic capabilities like direct energy weapons. This not only accelerates the space race with Russia and with China, who are likely to enhance their own space defense systems, but it also sets the premise of space becoming a battleground. So could we have like a cyber warfare in space? Well, with the integration with space-based systems into national defense and cybersecurity becomes paramount. The vulnerability of these systems to cyber attacks could lead to new forms of warfare, where disabling satellite systems becomes a strategic goal for adversaries. This escalation in cyber capabilities could fundamentally alter how countries safeguard their infrastructure and approach conflict, pushing defense. So if we're going to be navigating the new frontier, if you will, as space becomes the new frontier, okay, for the military, they might, with this new space-based projectiles like the kinetic, okay, like, you know how I did the video on the rods from God, okay? We are in critical need for arms control in orbit. Without it, we are on a collision course with increased nuclear risks. So while a full treaty might be a pipe dream here, starting talks to manage this space race is non-negotiable for world peace. So if you have the U.S. Space Initiative, which it could be a strategic power play, the U.S. isn't just playing defense with a space strategy. It's a bold move to dominate the modern geopolitical chess game. And we all know that politics, especially when you put, you know, some of the world's most amazing businessmen into that chess game, okay, this is like merging defense with political offense and space tech, and the U.S. could put Russia and China on the back foot, threatening their ability to retaliate, which is a good thing, forcing them into a corner where diplomacy might be their only move. So countries like Japan and South Korea, they're already under the U.S. defense umbrella. They could see shifts in their strategic importance, or might demand more involvement or technology sharing. So the global power dynamics are set for dramatic transformation as this new space arms race unfolds. Okay, so I know that was a lot to take in, but my brain was going da, 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 as I'm writing all of my notes down and going crazy. Okay. And plus it helped that my husband helped me write all of my notes. So anyway, all right, that's all. Okay, we will be discussing this a lot more because this has a lot to do with all the other rabbit holes that I went down and stuff like that. Okay, so I will see you guys in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fear less. Ciao.